So we will just run through our quick agenda for us. So today we're here to tell you about our mentoring scheme with University of Exeter, as Ruth said, and we're going to be telling you about what water resources in the Environment Agency looks like. Who are we at the Environment Agency, in case you don't know? And we're going to look at some of the roles that are on offer in water resources. So if you do get a mentor on this scheme, these are the sort of roles that your mentors could have. And then we're just going to talk through sort of what the scheme is, why we're doing it, look at the aims of our scheme and the benefits for you guys as mentees, so what you can gain if you choose to be a part of it. And we're also joined by a mentee from our previous cohort from last year who's going to talk through a few of his experiences and how he found it. And then we've just got a few slides on next steps if you want to get involved, and some key contacts and emails and things like that. And then we do have a chance for Q&A at the end, as Ruth said, so you can put questions in the chat, or if you want to at the end, you can come off mute and ask us live. Next slide, please, Ruth. So what is the Environment Agency? In case you haven't heard of us, we are the Environment Agency and we've been striving to improve our world since 1996. It's our job to look after your environment and create better places for people and wildlife. So as I'm sure all of you are aware, climate change is one of the biggest challenges we face today, and we aim to be net zero, which is cutting our greenhouse gas emissions to as close to zero as possible by 2030. And it's our ambition to create a net zero nation that's resilient to climate change. We put the climate emergency at the heart of everything we do. So we are helping the nation and wildlife adapt to climate change to reduce its impact, including flooding, drought, sea level rise, and coastal erosion. We improve the quality of water, land, air by tackling pollution, and we help businesses comply with environmental laws and regulations. So we want to keep people safe and protect the things that matter to everyone. So our natural spaces, our wildlife, and ultimately our future. That's why we have over 10,000 amazing people working in the EA, and it's across 14 different areas in England. So we're helping to get the nation involved in making a change. Next slide, please, Ruth. So this mentoring scheme is with a specific group of staff in the Environment Agency who work in water resources. So when you hear water resources, you might think of lakes, rivers, things like that. And in the Environment Agency, water resources is a specialist area of work. So we work closely with water and energy companies, and as well as farmers and many other people, to manage how water is used as a natural resource and protect and improve water biodiversity. Next slide, please, Ruth. So our work in water resources is really important as we strive to make sure water is used in a sustainable way. So we have 4 main departments within water resources. For this purpose. So they carry out work on things like reviewing license applications for sustainable water abstraction, so taking water out of the environment to use. And this is the work of the National Permitting Services. We have planning for and managing water use locally. So that's what our integrated environmental planning and local operations teams do, and they oversee this. We influence national policies, legislation, and planning that affect how the nation uses water and how it plans for a resilient future. So this is the work of our Environment and Business Department. Managing water resources and plans as well, working with water companies, is the remit of Operations Catchment Services. So you can see that the work in water resources varies hugely. So we've got people in all sorts of areas, and all these departments interlinked as well. So staff work closely together to share information, knowledge, expertise. And it's quite special to have these links across directorates and specialties, whilst all working towards a common goal of making sure water is used in a sustainable way. So we've got some facts on the side there as well about water. And so yeah, our mentors on this scheme have a variety of roles within water resources. So we've got a few examples of what some of the mentors can do. So we have water resources planners. So these members of staff work with water companies to assess water resources management plans. So these are plans that water companies produce, which show how they'll achieve a secure supply of water to their customers while protecting the environment. And they address possible problems in water availability at local, regional, and national levels. So their roles are incredibly important in ensuring that there's efficient use of water resources now and in the future. Next slide, please. So we have mentors who have the role of sustainable abstraction officers or advisors, and they provide advice about regulations, exploring nature-based solutions, and exploring risks to support sustainable access to water and drought resilience. So sustainable water abstraction is essential to ensure that river flows and groundwater levels support ecology and natural resilience. We also have water resources hydrologists on our scheme. So hydrologists are using the data and knowledge of surface water, so rivers, lakes, to restore, improve and protect water resources, contributing towards sustainable abstraction. So the work of the hydrologist contributes to ensuring we protect our water environment whilst getting what we need. And essentially water resources hydrologists, their roles are vital in managing water for human consumption, industry, agriculture and the environment. And another role we've got is the environmental planning officer. So they coordinate input from different teams and external organisations, so things like water companies, to ensure effective long-term strategic planning. They analyse and assess the impact of water-related projects on the environment and play an important role in the collaboration of different parts of the EA. And we do also have a career brochure where you can read more about water resources and our area of work as a whole. And there's information on job roles, career entry opportunities, career journeys, and more. And we've got that linked later on in the slides, so people can look at those if they wish. Next slide, please, Ruth. So what is this career mentor scheme all about? This is our second cohort with your wonderful university, and we are a niche branch of the more general career mentor scheme. So our first cohort had a specific hydrology focus, and this year we've opened it up to all of water resources staff. So we're looking for students who would like to be mentored by one of our water resources staff. It's a fantastic opportunity to learn more about water resources as a career path and more about the Environment Agency. So the matching for this will take place in mid to late October, and the mentoring itself will run from November this year till April 2025, with the possibility of extension if both parties wish to. The time commitment for this mentoring scheme is at least 1 hour a month, and the sessions will be virtual and held over Microsoft Teams. And if you haven't used Teams before, your mentor will be able to help you and send over the invites. And you may find that you'd like more than 1 hour, which is something you can discuss with your mentor to see if they can accommodate that. And just to let you know that our staff are volunteering to do this on top of their day-to-day role. So it could be worth bearing this in mind if you're asking for more hours, and they'll try to accommodate you best they can. Our mentors will be willing to share their background and experience in water resources and the EA with you. They can let you know about career entry opportunities. So these are things like internships, industry placements, graduate schemes, career entry roles, as well as giving advice on applications and interviews. So they will go by your lead as well. So you'll be able to explore what you want to get out of this scheme with your mentor. And you might know straight away what you want to do, or you might not, and either is absolutely fine. You'll have great conversations and figure out what it is you want to focus on during this mentoring relationship, even if you don't have something in mind at the start. And we have a few basic requirements if you want to get a mentor, so please make sure that all of them apply to you. So you should be studying a relevant undergraduate or postgraduate degree. So these are things like environmental science, geology, geography, water engineering. If you don't do one of these degrees, but you have a scientific or environmental background and you're interested in water resources, that should work fine as well. So you should have some interest in rivers, water management, water resources, hydrology, sustainability, etc. But you don't need to be decided on what you want to do as a career, and you don't need to be decided that it is a water resources career that you want. Part of the reason we're running this scheme is for you to find out more about it. But an interest would be useful, as this is where the mentors have expertise and knowledge. You should also be able to commit 1 hour of mentoring a month as a minimum and have access to a device that you can use for Microsoft Teams calls. And you should hopefully be wanting to hear more about the EA and what we do in water resources, but you don't need to be dead set on it or decided that you want to go into the EA afterwards. It's perfectly fine if you don't. And the scheme is to your benefit. So it's a chance for you to hear more about these things, but you can also direct the mentoring as you need, and nothing's compulsory or set in stone. And just a final note to say that we have a limited number of mentors, so it's possible that the scheme could be oversubscribed. So we can't guarantee a mentor this time around, but we would like to continue the scheme into the future. So if you don't get a chance this year, you could still get one in the following year. Next slide, please.
I was just going to say, Rachel, do you want, if you can hear me okay, I could try take over. Is my Wi-Fi holding up?
You sound fine now, so you can give it a go. I'll jump in if not.
Real, yeah. Just let me know, and Andrew as well. Just let me know if I start breaking up again. I just thought I'd save your voice a little bit, Rachel. But thank you very much for that. So yes, over to me. So why are we doing this scheme then? So I wanted to just sort of tell you all a little bit about our aims. So water resources is an exceedingly important and relevant career path, and some areas of water kind of skills that we're lacking a little bit. We struggle to recruit in, and we need more people in these areas, things like hydrology, for instance. And a lot of people are not aware of all the roles that we actually have on offer in water resources whilst they're at uni. So we want to promote this to more people, let people know what it is and what a great career path you can have in water resources. We also want to share our career entry opportunities because we've got loads of different ways you can get into the EA, even when you're still at university. So Rachel mentioned a few then, like the internships and that kind of thing. So, we want to let you know, and we've got that kind of thing coming out sort of this autumn, winter time. So, there's going to be vacancies. So it's a good time to get a mentor and discuss kind of the options and what you might be interested in. We want to help as well more young people and graduates across the water resources profession, the EA. We want to help more people in, and we are committed as well to good youth employment standards. As I've got a little badge on there. It is from 2023, but I haven't got the most recent one. But we work with Youth Employment UK, if anybody's heard of them. We work with them quite closely, so we are committed to that as well, and providing sort of opportunities for young people. And we would love to just help more students and young people along with their careers, give advice straight from people who are in the thick of it, really, the people who are in the EA. And we do have a good range with the mentors. We've got some mentors that are, recent graduates, fairly recent graduates themselves. They've all at least got a year in the EA in terms of experience, but some are more recent. Some have been in the EA 20 years, and we've got anyone in between. So we've got a really good spread as well in terms of experiences. But they're all, in the thick of it, and they can really help you develop. So that's in terms of our aims. That's kind of the overview there. But benefits for you, we have touched on some already, but I just wanted to really hammer home how this could benefit yourselves. And obviously there are benefits to us in the EA, but there are, loads of things you can get out of this. So having a mentor, it'll allow you to develop your skills in communication, but also when applying for roles and interviewing. So in our last cohort, a lot of people got help with things like that. Your mentor can help with that. They can give advice, they can give feedback, and they'll also, as I said, be able to explain those career entry opportunities as well and signpost you to them. Your mentor can help you as well, give you advice for your plans for the future, whether you want to just discuss that, you don't have any ideas, or whether you do have ideas and you might need some more advice about how to get somewhere. They can kind of help you make sense of your ambitions and suggest things that you might want to do to get where you want to go. Your mentor will be able to give you advice and insight directly related to the industry, which is really useful. So that's for water resources, but also the EA, because obviously all members of the EA, so we can help you with anything, any information about the Environment Agency as well. You could have the opportunity as well to start networking with people in the Environment Agency whilst you're still studying. We do, it does depend a bit on the mentor and kind of what you want to get out of it, but we have had people sort of in the last cohort, we've had mentees, students talking to lots of different people in the Environment Agency in different areas as well, so it's quite good for networking. You can form some good relationships whilst you're still at uni, make key contacts, that kind of thing. It can really boost your confidence. A lot of people reported that it did in the last cohort. It can really help you when you're starting out in your career, or getting you on your way to start in your career. You'll have the opportunity for sort of one-to-one dedicated time with your mentor. You'll be able to ask questions, get feedback. And a good benefit as well is that you can actually use this experience for your CV. in applications and interviews and things like that. It shows you've got a real interest in a career. It shows you've got drive and development, and that you're actively looking for opportunities to develop. So you can actually get quite a lot out of this in terms of using it for your CV. You might learn a lot, be able to use this as an example for your career prospects. And finally, if Andrew's told us that if you take part in this scheme, it does count towards the Exeter Award as well and helps your employability prospects as well. So that's an extra little benefit for you. So, in terms of feedback then from our previous cohort, which was February to July this year, I think we ran it, we got some really great statistics from them. We sort of sent out a bit of a exit survey, which just proves how useful the scheme's been. So, 100% of mentees increased their knowledge of job hunting resources available, felt more confident completing job application forms effectively, which was great. 88% of the mentees improved their communication skills over the 6-month experience. 75% were able to grow their contacts, which will prove useful when looking for a future career. And every mentee felt that they had a better understanding of how they can move into their profession of interest as well. And I think 100% of all the mentees last year recommended this scheme, or they said they would recommend it to fellow students. So hopefully that's enough good stats to convince you. But if you want to experience all these benefits we've been talking about for yourself, then this scheme might be right for you, and you might want to consider applying for it. So I think we've got Ben Phillipson. I believe I saw your name, so hopefully you're on the call, who was just going to talk to us a little bit about his experience because he was a mentee in the last cohort from February to July. So Ben, are you there? Just to check.
Yes, yeah, I'm here if you can hear me.
I can, yeah. So I've just got a few questions for you today, really. Just we thought it'd be very useful, and thank you very much for giving up your time as well. Very useful for people to hear from somebody who's done it. Did it already this year. So is it okay if I just ask you a few questions and then you can sort of tell everyone a bit more about your experience, really?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Go for
Real.
it.
So if we start then with a bit of an introduction, I don't know if you know anybody here, but just like about you, your degree, career interests, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so basically I was a BSc geography student at Exeter, obviously. And yeah, I had an interest in potentially after university going into a company like the Environment Agency. So when I saw this scheme, I thought, this sort of thing will help me get an insight into potentially what it will be like and what the workplace will be like in general, because obviously you've been in education all your life. So yeah, I was looking to get experience in things like interviews and a bit of networking and yeah, just increasing my knowledge around what it's like in the workplace.
That's great, thank you. And what did you enjoy about it then?
Yeah, I'd say to be fair, my tutor was really nice and sort of like to start off with, it was just getting to know each other and we'd have like, one or 2 hours every month to discuss things, but we came up with like a plan to start off with of things that we sort of wanted to achieve throughout that 6 or 7 month period, whatever it was. But yeah, basically I said like, oh, I want to improve my interviewing skills. I want to improve like my CV. And yeah, just focus on exploring the industry a bit more. So we came up with that framework and then yeah, we worked on it throughout the months.
That's great, thank you. And in terms of the benefits, I know I've kind of talked about a few there, but personally to yourself, what did you get out of this? What benefits have you taken away?
Yeah, so basically we looked over my CV, probably wasn't great before. But yeah, it was kind of I sent it over to her. I got a lot of good feedback. So she basically said, if you want to go into sort of a career in the environment sort of sector, these are the things that you should prioritize putting towards the top of your CV. These are the sort of things they look for. Um, and yeah, we set up a kind of trial interview as well. So I got interviewed by, I think it was like her manager as well. So it was like both of them doing a kind of formal interview with me, like a mock interview. But yeah, they were doing a formal interview with me, and it was the first time I had an interview like that. So that was really good experience in itself. And yeah, also just making contacts because those I think we're still going to stay in touch when I finish my masters, and yeah, see what happens after that.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I think just to echo your point there, Ben, I think when you're at university, if you might not have had that kind of interview before. So if that's something you're interested in and you get onto this scheme, it's something to mention to your mentor for sure. And then just one last question for you, Ben. So why would you recommend it then to other students?
I'd say like if you're not sure about like what your kind of career is looking like, and you're thinking, well, maybe I want to go into the environmental sector, it's a good way to sort of ask all the questions that you might have for people who are actually in that industry. And then I think you can sort of kind of say to yourself, maybe that's not for me, or maybe that is for me. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to work for the Environment Agency or whatever, but like you see the sort of things that they do on a day-to-day basis, and in the interview itself, actually, it's quite nice to sort of see what they're looking for and what they're kind of going to ask you if you do go into that industry. So I think it gives you quite a good experience in terms of, yeah, preparing yourself for going into that workplace, or just, kind of working on things like your CV, which is a bit more general. So I think it's a good experience either way, to be honest.
That's great, thank you. And just out of interest, what masters have you gone into then?
Well, it's not actually in hydrology, it's in wildfires. So, but yeah, I mean, afterwards, potentially, still looking in the environment sector, but
Yeah,
maybe not hydrology. But we'll see. We'll
yeah,
see
no,
what
that's
happens.
That's absolutely fine, and that's part of the reason this year we've widened the scheme, so it's all water resources staff now. But that sounds really interesting, Ben. So good luck with your masters. That sounds great, and thank you very much for coming along today to tell everyone a little bit more about it. I think it's helpful to hear from a fellow student that's sort of been there, done that. So thank you very much for that, Ben.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, guys.
Brill, thank you. Great. Well, I will move on then to the next step. So, just this is obviously if you're wondering what happens after today, if you're interested. So, mentors and mentees, obviously you'll need to apply if you are interested, and I'm sure you all have the way of doing that. And Andrew has been promoting that, so do please apply if you're interested. And then the mentors and the mentees will be matched by the University of Exeter in mid to late October time. Mentors will receive training and guidance as well before first contact, just to make you aware of that. And then mentoring will take place in November, and it will run for about 6 months into April. And I think the closing date, and anyone correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's the 14th of October. So just make sure you get your applications in before then. And both our training and skills team in the EA and also Andrew's University of Exeter team will be around if you've got any questions or concerns at any point, and do check-ins to see how it's going and that kind of thing. And at the start and end of the mentoring process as well, we will be sending out a survey. So if you do get on the scheme, this is a short survey to do at the start, and then there's a bit of a longer survey at the end. And it's just about your knowledge of water resources, the EA, and your experience as well afterwards. So just how you found the mentoring, really. And I can just see Andrew's put it in the chat. It's the midnight on the Sunday the 13th. So there we go. So that's the closing date. So make sure you get your application in before then. But yeah, just to reiterate as well, you could end up continuing your mentoring as well if both parties are happy to continue outside of the scheme. So even though the scheme runs till April next year, you might find that you carry on a little bit longer with your mentor. It depends on your individual circumstances, really. And just again to reiterate, I know we've said, but just depending on demand, we can't promise you a mentor this time round, but we do hope to match as many people as possible. So just make sure you get that application in if you're interested by midnight on the 13th. So in terms of those key contacts that I mentioned, if you do have any questions, your main point of contact is the University of Exeter's Career Mentor Scheme team, and then that's the mailbox email address on the slides there. And these slides are getting shared with you as well afterwards, so you'll be able to see that. You're also welcome to get in touch as well with us at our mailbox email address, so that's on there as well. If you've got any specific questions kind of to do with the water resources side of things or anything like that, feel free to get in touch with us as well. That's absolutely fine. And for more information, I've got some key links on here for you. Again, we'll share these slides, but we do have that Water Resources Careers webpage. I put the link in the chat earlier as well when Rachel mentioned it, but it is on there too. And that's got loads of information about water resources. It's got links to, different job profiles. We've got videos on there, day in the life of a hydrologist, things like that. We've got the brochure, we've got case studies about kind of internships, industry placements, apprenticeships, loads of things. So do check it out because there's a lot of information on there you might find useful. There's also a more general careers webpage. That's the second link. So that's just like for the EA as a whole. If you want to learn a bit more about the rest of the EA too, do have a little look at that. We've got a jobs portal which tells you our current opportunities. The link's on there and you can have a little look. And you can also sign up to job alerts, I think, on there as well, if you are looking for anything specific. And then the last link is just our Youth Employment UK page, which I mentioned earlier, and it's kind of our early career hub. If you go on there, again, there's more case studies. There's loads of things in there. It's all the case studies are written by our own staff and give you a bit of a personal insight into working for us. And there's more information on there as well, so it might be worth checking out. It's a good website in general, really. Youth Employment UK. They have lots of different employers on there. So you'll be able to click on these links directly off the call once you have the slides. So I think we are now just onto the questions part of the talk today. So does anybody have any questions? I don't think there are any in the chat at the moment, but please do put any in that you might have. And if anybody wants to be brave and put up a virtual hand and ask a question, please do. I'll give you a couple of minutes just to see if anybody wants to put their hand up. Got a couple of questions coming in. Don't think I can see any hands just yet, but I've got a couple of questions. So is the Environment Agency part of the civil service? So it's not actually. It's a bit of a funny one because it's not part of the civil service, and yet we are kind of a government body. We basically work with DEFRA, who DEFRA is a government body, civil service, and we work with them. We're kind of sponsored by DEFRA, so we're not civil service, but we're like a sort of arm's length part of it, if that makes sense. So it's a bit of a funny one, but we don't kind of necessarily follow all of the civil service things. So for instance, we have a different pension, that kind of thing. But in terms of things like pay, we quite often follow the similar levels, that kind of thing. So yeah, we're not civil service, though, is the gist of it, really. But we do work for the government. The second question was, how does the scheme contribute to the Exeter Award? I think if Andrea is available, you might be better to answer that one.
Yeah, no problem. So thanks, Edwin, for your question. So for the Exeter Award, to achieve that, you've got to undertake certain employability activities. That could be attending skills workshops that the skills team put on, taking part in internship placements, things like that, but also taking part in the Career Mentor Scheme counts towards the Exeter Award as an employability activity. So once you fully complete either this scheme or the Central Career Mentor Scheme, you can request a certificate and then you would upload that as part of your evidence that you've completed this. And that's how it goes towards your Exeter Award. So hopefully that's clear. There's a few more questions I can answer here, Ruth. So I'll just go down those.
Yeah, go for it. Thank you.
So the Environment Agency mentors are not listed on Handshake like they are for the central scheme. That's because we're targeting a very specific group of students, and if we put them on Handshake, we'd get applications from everyone. So it's just to help with that. So instead, the Environment Agency mentors are in a document that was shared with the mail out that we sent promoting this session and the Environment Agency scheme if you have any trouble opening it, you can just email the Career Mentor Scheme inbox and we can email it to you. All right. So they're all listed in there. It's an interactive document so that you can flick between different mentors and have a look. I will say that around half of the mentors are now taken. Do still apply for your mentor, because if they're not available, we'll match you with the next best fit. So in terms of, do we run similar mentoring schemes relating to ecology conservation? So this is the only sort of specialist scheme that we've got in that area at the moment. We do occasionally have people, professionals with that expertise on our central career mentor scheme. But as you might have gathered, professionals in this area of work are very few and far between, which is why we're running this scheme, is to try and encourage more to come into the sector. So I would say that this particular scheme with the Environment Agency is your best bet for speaking to somebody from that area. Just having a look. It was mentioned there was limited spaces on the scheme. I'm a fourth-year student, so I won't have the opportunity to apply next year. Will my application be slightly prioritised based on this? That's a really good question, Emily. Not necessarily. I would say, yeah, there are limited spaces. We still have some. So I think just apply as soon as you can, and just make sure, everybody, that you put a reasonable effort into your statement asking why you're applying for the scheme, because we do occasionally get applications through that are just one sentence. And if if demand is high, we're not going to be able to go back to you to give you the opportunity to expand on that. So make sure that you're putting a really good effort into your application and getting that in as soon as possible. So as we've mentioned, the deadline for applications is midnight on Sunday, the 13th of October. However, mentors may go before then, and we do match on a first come, first served basis. So we still have a good amount available, but please put a good effort in and get your application in as soon as possible, basically. But if Emily, you don't happen to get matched and you're really quite desperate, just get in contact with us and we can look at other ways that we might be able to help. How about the interview? Edwin, you might want to expand on that one. And I'll try and answer that. So how do you apply? So in the document where all the mentors are listed, there is a link to the application form, which is a Microsoft form. So you apply on there, it will gather information about you and what you're studying, and then there'll be a box where you explain why you want to apply for that mentor, and then another box where you explain why you're applying for the mentors that you've chosen. So it's on a Teams application form. I will put all Yes, and we do have a central career mentor scheme. So we have it's like our main career mentor scheme, which runs twice an academic year for 6 months. So the next scheme starts in December. So applications for that are open now. And there's a multitude of mentors on there from all kinds of sectors. And alongside that, we have got specialist schemes which focus on specific areas and sectors, like the Environment Agency scheme. But we've also got schemes that are focused on law and finance with JP Morgan. So we've got several employer partnerships. It was mentioned about an interview. How does that work? If you mean about, because Ben talked about how he got a lot of advice with the interview process, and he had a mock interview to help him prepare for the interview process. So that's kind of what we mean. There isn't an interview to get onto this scheme. It's all done by your application form. For the Exeter award, I'm not aware that there's an interview. I could be wrong. I'm not aware that there is, but I think it's mainly submitting evidence that you've met the criteria to gain the Exeter award. I hope that helps, Edwin, but it was more about gaining interview experience. There isn't a interview process as such for this one. Okay, great.
Thank you so much there, Andrew. I think you've answered all of them. I think the only one I was just going to add a tiny bit to was just Jennifer's question about running similar mentoring schemes relating to ecology conservation. In water resources, we do have like hydroecology. So there is, I'm pretty sure we've got one, at least maybe one person who does hydroecology, and some of the mentors might not do it, but they might have experience in it. So you could end up with a mentor that can help you with things relating to that anyway, or they could even give you some contacts as well, just to let you know that is not an option, depending on kind of what you need and what your mentor can do as well, just to add that. But yeah, and yeah, I think that is it really. And I hope everyone found it useful, and that you consider applying. And yeah, just get in your application ASAP if you are interested. We're really excited to be running this again, and I'm hoping it will be just as useful for people this year as it was in the last cohort as well. And just a last apologies for me for my terrible Wi-Fi and not being on camera. I'm sorry you didn't get to see my face, but yeah, it was great to speak to you all today, and thank you very much as well to Rachel for helping take over my section at the start, and thank you to Andrew as well for hosting us.